Okay, let's dive into this part one, the TikTok backlash, and a massive U-turn in public opinion. So, with the sheer volume of eyes on Punch, people eventually started looking past the adorable subject right there in the foreground and began critically examining the background. To really grasp the scale of this backlash, we've got to look at this number, 5.8 million. That is the number of views racked up by a single TikTok video from the user named Becky Lee. She's a San Diego native currently living out in Japan. In her viral clip, she's just casually ordering at a McDonald's drive-thru, but her message was incredibly direct. Even though she was getting flooded with requests from followers begging her to go check on Punch since she lives in the same country, Becky Lee firmly declared she would absolutely not be visiting the baby macaque. Now, Becky Lee explained that her refusal wasn't because she didn't care about Punch. In fact, she said she was totally heartbroken by his story. Rather, she was taking a stand based on her broader perspective. She stated that since moving overseas, she realized, quote, how abysmal and non-existent Japanese care of animals is. She essentially framed her refusal to visit as a direct rejection of the overall state of animal welfare in Japanese zoos, calling the whole situation really unfortunate. And she didn't just stop at a broad cultural critique either. She pointed directly at the footage of Punch's enclosure. According to her analysis of those viral clips, the habitat was, quote, pathetic. She explicitly pointed out that the monkey's environment seemed to just amount to a couple of rocks. But what really struck a chord with her audience was her observation that the stuffed animal wasn't just some cute little accessory. To her, it looked like it was Punch's literal sole source of entertainment and fulfillment. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast she set up for her millions of viewers. Becky Lee leaned heavily on her own background, comparing the footage of Punch to her experiences visiting the San Diego Zoo multiple times a week. She held up San Diego as this prime example of an institution with very high standards that really prides itself on animal care. Against that benchmark, she warned her viewers that visiting popular zoos and pet cafes in Japan, especially around Tokyo, carries a 99.9% chance of being very unethical. So while she acknowledged plenty of other positives about living in Japan, she drew a super hard line on this specific issue. While the comments section of Becky Lee's video quickly turned into a massive echo chamber of shared outrage, viewers enthusiastically agreed with her bleak assessment. They were pointing out that Punch was literally just running around on solid concrete. Others were expressing total confusion over why people were supposedly ignoring that the zoo was, in their words, obviously horrible. The overarching consensus among these commenters was that the humane handling was just bleak. Honestly, it left viewers feeling even worse for the young macaque than they did when they initially thought it was just a sad, cute little story. But, you know, social media outrage is one thing. What happens when the professionals step in? Let's move on to part two, what the experts say regarding these welfare concerns. So the really crucial point here is what the professionals actually observed in the footage. Animal welfare organization Four Paws International issued a statement directly criticizing the lack of green, shade, and enrichment in Punch's living conditions. And the online publication Green Matters totally echoed this. They specifically pointed out missing behavioral elements, things like climbing structures or water elements like a pond. Plus, they highlighted this huge, almost invisible danger, the very virality that made Punch famous to begin with. They stated that the increased attention and these massive, eager crowds visiting the baby macaque could actually be seriously contributing to his stress and anxiety. Around the same time, armchair sleuths and concerned viewers began heavily scrutinizing the footage themselves, which led to even more alarming claims. People alleged they could clearly see noticeable bald spots on Punch's body. And adding to that concern, claims started floating around online that the young macaque was exhibiting signs of being bullied by the other monkeys in his enclosure. So as you can see, the narrative had just completely shifted, from a rescued orphan to an animal seemingly in deep distress. But the institution at the very center of this storm finally pushed back. Here is part three. The zoo responds with their official rebuttal. Now, what's really interesting about this is how they addressed the internet's accusations point by point. Regarding those claims of poor health and hair loss, the zoo stated that Punch recently had a full veterinary check and is in good health, with perfectly normal food intake and weight. They explained that the bald spots are actually just due to excessive grooming, which is a super common behavior. And as for that stark, concrete environment everyone saw in the TikTok clips, well, the zoo revealed that the monkeys actually have access to 4 back rooms that are entirely hidden from public view. This allows them to retreat from the crowds and the stress literally whenever they need a break. Addressing the accusations about a total lack of natural elements, the zoo was emphatic. They stated that there actually is greenery available to the monkeys. It simply wasn't captured in those super short viral videos. In their release statement, they noted, quote, Many of the trees provided for environmental enrichment have become excellent play tools, especially for the young monkeys, including Punch. They also added that they're, constantly seeking the best ways to improve the environment. So they're pointing to an ongoing commitment to the animal's welfare rather than that static, bleak picture painted by social media. And that brings us to the core takeaway of today's explainer. A story that started with a cute little stuffed animal evolved into a massive, complex debate about international animal welfare standards, crowdsourced investigations, and institutional defense. It just goes to show how a few seconds of video can be interpreted in vastly different ways depending entirely on who's watching and what's left out of the frame. So I leave you with this thought. Next time a heartwarming or even a shocking animal video crosses your feed, what will you look for in the background? And what context might you be totally missing? Thanks so much for exploring this with me.